Hello everyone, Grimm here. Before we get too far into this, please remember, like and subscribe, leave a comment down below. Tonight's video is going to be about those terrible encounters we always seem to have with our next door neighbours. So, please, sit back, relax and enjoy. So, I, 25 female, have a husky that I walk around my quiet neighborhood and bush outside for obvious reasons. Yesterday, around 3 p.m., I'm standing in my front driveway brushing my dog when I turn around and see a complete stranger, grown man, standing next to me. He begins to ask me if he can say hi to my dog because he sees me around a lot. And I'm already hesitant, but I allow it, and at this time I notice he's on FaceTime with his phone pointing at me too. He then tells me he just moved here from South Africa and bought the house at the end of the road. It's one that's been abandoned for over a year now and has never been posted for sale. He starts asking me if I'm 16, because he likes 16-year-olds, following up with, am I alone right now? Is this my house? Is this my car? Do I live alone? Are you around often? Etc. I politely say I'm not willing to answer these questions and tell him that he should leave. He then walks into the woods across the street, coming back 15 minutes later, attempting to invite himself into my house and asking me more questions, this time along the lines of, do I lock my doors and am I alone at night time? Getting upset at me for saying that I don't want him in my property and that I will be calling the cops. He stood in the street watching me walk into the house and lock up before walking away back into the abandoned house. Now I'm just left thinking if I'm overreacting or being totally creeped out is the correct response. Update. I have put a report in and spoken to a couple of neighbours, but none of them have seen him around, which I guess is good. And thank you to everyone for your concerns and advice. Background. I, 23, female, and my roommate, 23, female, live in an apartment in the suburbs of ATL. As you may know, ATL is super dangerous and crime-ridden right now. So we have a Ring peephole camera, perfect for apartments, and a digital lock in our door for safety. Now, on to the story. About 3 months ago, the sweet family from across the hall moved out and we got a new neighbor. His name is David, and let's just say he's interesting. When we first saw him moving in, we were a bit taken aback by the sheer amount of stuff that he was trying to fit into his one-bedroom apartment. All of it was anime merch and Star Wars memorabilia. Definitely gives me more hoarder vibes, but it's not really my business. When the moving trucks had left and a few days had passed, my roommate and I knocked on his door to give him a welcome to the neighborhood gift basket with some baked goods, dog treats and dog poop bags for his dog, and some seasonal candles. Apparently, this was not the correct thing to do. After that day, David got creepy. It started out innocent enough. He would come to the door whenever he heard me or my roommate coming or going to have a quick chat, or he would come over regularly and ask for salt, sugar, or toilet paper. Sometimes he would ask if we would come over and watch his dog, but within the past 2 weeks things have really escalated. 2 weeks ago, we were out pretty late partying at the bar near the Brevis Stadium. We ended up getting home at around 3 AM, only to find David sitting at the top of the stairs waiting for us. He acted all upset, asked us where we had been, and requested that we tell him if we're planning to be out past midnight. I laughed at his face, and he called me a mindless Stacy. I'm still not sure what that means. He also asked for access to our Ring camera so he could make sure we were safe. We laughed at him again, and we went into our apartment. Here's the scary part. We checked the Ring the next morning, and he had sat outside his apartment staring at our door for the rest of the night. When we saw that, we contacted the complex to let them know that he was acting crazy. They told us to contact the police, so we did. The police told us to contact them if he made any threats, but since we lived in a shared space, they couldn't do anything until he entered our apartment or threatened us. I assume the complex said something to him because he left us alone for the next 5 days or so. This week, he is out of control. He's constantly sitting outside of our apartment. My roommate has started leaving for work an hour early so she doesn't cross paths with him. I cannot leave the apartment during the day because he is constantly waiting outside for me. He has asked me out, left love letters on the door, on our cars, and in our mailbox. I told him once that I wasn't interested, and he told me he would unalive himself if I didn't go out with him. Of course, I don't have that in writing, so the police won't do anything about it. He's also put up a Ring doorbell of his own so he can track all of our movements, and will leave really creepy and sexual notes when we're gone so we find them when we come back. What do we do? Edit. Thank you all for the advice. For now, my brother is spending the night on my couch for the next few nights until we can have a sit-down meeting with the landlord. We have collected all the evidence and the Ring footage so we can show how much this has progressed. I'm sure the landlord and the police think that we're being dramatic little girls or whatever, so we're not going to take no for an answer. Either he leaves or we break our lease and get our full security deposit back. We're also going to file a temporary restraining order at the very minimum because some of the commenters said that it would be faster than going through the police. Again, thank you so much for all your advice. I'll update you if there's anything else or any more crazy stuff goes down. Update, March 14th. Thank you so much to everyone who replied to this thread and sent me direct messages. I really appreciate all the kind words and advice and support. Here are some updates. 1. We met with our landlords last week. Unfortunately, they aren't willing to work with us as much as we expected. They will not remove him from his unit. Since we don't want to spend a ton of money to move, we asked if we could move units within the complex. The landlord offered us a one-bedroom unit on the terrace level, so my roommate and I would have to share a room on basically what is the basement of our building. Not ideal. 2. We spoke to the police and they said that the notes and letters weren't enough to get someone on stalking or harassment, especially since he lives literally 3 feet away from us. He's probably just thinks we're cute, was the wording that they used. They did keep the Ring footage and said that they would contact us sometime this week after they reviewed all the footage. Update 3. We have both moved in with my parents for the time being. Shout out to them for being incredible parents. It really sucks spending $2,000 plus monthly on a place you can't live. We are actively looking for another apartment, but money is tight since we would have to buy out the current lease and pay to start a new one. Also, not ideal. So, it's not the update we were hoping for, but we are both safe now, and that's what's important. If anyone has any suggestions about how we can raise $5,000 in a month, please let me know. I, 24 female, moved into our new neighborhood about 2 years ago with my partner, 33 male, and our children. After 6 months of living here in the beginning of the pandemic, we started to get to know our immediate neighbors. They seemed to be homebodies and stayed inside almost all of the time. After a bit, they started coming out to talk more, and we all seemed to get along. I'd considered letting them come over a few times, but they can be a bit awkward and difficult to keep conversations going with. We've done paint nights outside a few times, but haven't invited each other inside ever. The couple seem to come outside whenever we're outside, coincidentally. They include themselves in our activities and chat here and there. We felt like we've brought them out of their shells and given them some socialization that they needed, since they dwell inside in the dark, playing video games constantly. I gave my number to the girl when we had an issue between units, in case of emergencies. We've sent a few messages about the property, management, weather, etc., but only a few. Lately, I haven't seen the woman outside as much as before, but the guy is outside every time I am. He started sitting in the lawn chair in his front step daily for hours. Fast forward, a friend of mine comes to spend the night. I introduce the neighbor guy to my friend to be polite. He meets her dog and says a few random things, then he goes back to sitting on the step for several hours that night. Some days later, he signals me with a psst and asks if everything's okay. I tell him I'm fine and ask what he means. He proceeds to tell me that I was sending him mixed signals when my friend was over and he just wanted to make sure I'm alright, which didn't make a single bit of sense, but I said sorry for the confusion. I assured him I was fine and went about my business. A couple more days pass. I get a text from him saying who it is and that he hopes my child and I are having a great day. I didn't give him my number, so I found it to be inappropriate and I didn't answer him. I started realizing he's been outside in the morning at the time I leave for work daily. He will also be outside within the 15 minutes of me getting home. Regardless of time, the guy sits out there until 4 a.m. some nights. Crazier part is he's inside within 20 minutes of me leaving. We'll stay outside for 14 full hours as long as I'm home. Doesn't go out if my partner is home and I'm not. Doesn't come out if no one's home. Will know if I'm home even when I switch cars with my partner. I'm uncomfortable, but I don't want to point fingers and make it worse. But this dude won't talk to my partner, hardly acknowledges him. Meanwhile, finds a way to talk to me almost every day. He does things like trying to help me with my dogs walking them to the car. or tries to play games with my child, or he'll knock on my door asking if I've lost a random item that aren't mine. And he has also continued to text a few more times. I've seen all of this on my security cameras, since we've been paying attention to the odd behavior. I can't tell if it's a super weird coincidence, or if he's purposefully watching me or something. Not to mention he makes hand gestures and speaks to himself with no phone out, no headphones. I'll walk a few doors down and visit other neighbors, and he gets the mail, which he's never done. Later, he then tries to meet those neighbors. Another weird coincidence. I mentioned a yard sale I was having up the road. He never takes walks, but that day he decided to, and I get a new console. He gives me two $60 games. The other neighbor said he's never sat outside like this before, not in the past 5 years that they've known he's been there. His girlfriend has been questioning him about it. I walk out and overhear her upset with him replying sarcastically, "That's the kind of guy I am." She also mentions that he had his meds changed months ago when an ambulance came for him. Let's not forget my boyfriend's car tire that has randomly been slashed several times in our neighborhood. I'm wondering, am I just being paranoid over coincidences, or do I need to move? Sorry if this post isn't best, or if it belongs on a different subreddit. I hardly share on Reddit, but I think I'm doing this right. A little context. I'm 19 years old and a female. I moved back into my mother's house late last year. I have a neighbor who's about 50 to 60-ish. He's a male who I've caught watching me almost every day for the past few months now, maybe since January or February. The way our houses are laid out is a little confusing. My backyard ends on the side of his house and the yard, so the back of my house is pointed to the side of his. My room's window faces the back on the ground level, so I have a direct view of the side of his property. I hope that made sense. What he will do is stand outside when he smokes, and the whole time his body will be facing my direction. When I first started noticing it, I shrugged it off as him looking at the sky or mountains behind my house, or maybe he was zoned out. But after a while, I noticed that he didn't try to look in any other direction when I'm in my room. Soon it was just about every day I could count on seeing him outside, looking in my window/yard. I was getting sick of it. I started hiding when I would see him, then shut the blinds, and then open them up after he left. I tried staring back at him and flipping him off. I knew he had noticed, as he would scurry away behind the corner of his house when I protested. At this point, he knows I've seen him multiple times and that I don't like it. Now, yesterday was different. I had taken the screen out of my window so that my cats could come in and out as they pleased. One had abandonment issues and wouldn't go outside without someone close, so now seeing me through my window was even easier. My younger brother was in the back working on our garden, and I was leaning out the window chatting to him. Looking up, I saw the guy half hiding behind his house, face out towards me. My annoyance and anger had reached breaking point. I yelled at him across both properties to stop staring, and he scurried away behind his little corner. My brother and I continued our conversation, as it seemed he got the hint. I was wrong. I kept an eye out for him, and that corner. I then saw him again, this time just the top of his head and his eyes, as he concealed his body behind his house and leaned as far as he could. My blood ran cold. This guy who I didn't even know and is 3 times my age is so desperate to just look at me, then he can't stop even after being yelled at. I yelled again and he hid again. Not saying a word, I was trying to wrap up the conversation between me and my brother so I could shut my window and hide. Once again, I see his head and his eyes staring. I screamed this time and slammed my window. He cowardly went off. I wasn't planning on making this post until I saw him doing it again today. My window was shut and he ran off before I could yell. I feel sick to my stomach. He won't get the hint. I don't know what to do. I like keeping my blinds open during the day since I keep cacti in my room and they need light. Not to mention the lights in my room don't work, so I have to use sunlight anyway. I shouldn't have to change my routine because of a creep, but I don't think I can report him to the police because he is just staying in his own property, and I don't know if I can legally record him if he's in his own yard. I want to knock on his door and tell his wife, but my mum advised me against it. I don't think me giving him a stern look will do anything other than fuel whatever fantasies he might have over me. It could be dangerous too. This situation is starting to affect my mental health. I'll wake up in the middle of the night convinced someone is right outside looking at me. I can't even change my clothes in my own room anymore because I feel like he's already caught a peek. I don't think ignoring him is an option that I can continue to do. Is there a way, anything I can do that could help my situation? Update. Oh my god, I'm shaking. He was outside shirtless smoking a cigarette. He could tell I saw him. He scurried away and then came back. I grabbed my camera on Snapchat. I just screamed at him and threatened to call the cops. He argued back. I think I got the recording, but my phone is so old and laggy I can't tell if it's saved. I called my mum and told her I was calling the cops. She told me she would come home and talk to me about it before we do. She was brief. I think I'm going to head to a friend's house until my mum gets home, so I won't be able to respond to comments very well, but wish me luck. Another update. Mum called again before I left to my friend's house and allowed me to explain the situation further. She thought I was outside when this happened, I guess, which is why she wasn't in a hurry. She told me to stay home and get the house ready for the cops, and that I can go ahead and call them now. So, final update. I called the cops. An officer came over and I showed him my room and from where the neighbor would stand outside. Basically, he told me to get curtains, and since he is on his property, he technically is allowed to stand and look in any direction he wants, and it's just unfortunate that my window is easy to see into. He couldn't tell him not to face my house when he smokes outside. I asked the officer to suggest if he smoked on the other side of the house or on the front porch, and he said he would talk to him but doesn't expect much to happen. I told the officer that I felt like it was an invasion of privacy and that this has been occurring for months. that I should be able to live in my own room without being watched. Basically, I guess he has the right to look into my room as long as he's in his own yard, and I can't do anything about it legally unless there is solid evidence of intention. I also found out my mum shut off the cameras because it was blowing up her phone too much. If I had a recording of yesterday where he had peeked around the corner, I could have proved intent. But I guess I'm out of luck. Thank you everyone for making it to the end. Grimm here. Now, because we've made it this far, just remember, and I'm only doing this because it really does help out the channel, like and subscribe. Leave a comment even if you want to tell me that I suck. In fact, I'll take that. I mean, I'll probably block your message, but I'll read it. I'll be the only one to read it, so you'll be really getting to me. But anyway, since those that are my usual followers, friends and subscribers have come through to the end, let's do the magic word. Today we're going to use the word cape. C-A-P-E. Cape. Put that in the comments to let me know you made it to the end. Well, anyway, I'm not going to drag it out. Be safe wherever you are. Have an amazing night or day. And as always, I am Grimm, and I am, well, signing off.